In this section, we will deep dive into the different meetings and events during a Scrum. So mainly those are daily Scrum, or also called daily stand-up meetings, Scrum Up Scrum, sprint planning meetings, sprint review meetings, and sprint retrospective. So a daily Scrum, irrespective of the size or the duration of the sprint, is usually limited to no more than 15 minutes. And there's a reason for it to be a stand-up. You don't want to sit down and start getting into too many other discussion and non-productive discussions. So it's usually in front of the Scrum board, and the entire team stands in a circle and basically answers three key questions. What have you done since yesterday? What are you planning to do today? And do you have any problems that's preventing you from performing optimally? Is there any impediments? And that's basically what the team discusses to keep each other updated, and at the end of it goes back to their own workstations and continue working. Now, Scrum Up Scrum is a situation when a large project is being worked on by multiple Scrum teams. It occurs usually each day after their daily Scrum. These meetings are generally focused on things like overlap, and if there are certain integration between the work of each team. The agenda usually is around the 4 questions, like what have your team done since we last met? What will your team be doing from now till the next meeting? Is anything that's slowing down your team? And is there anything that you are going to be working on that can prove to be an impediment for the rest of the team? That's basically to keep everyone updated so that all the teams can progress with minimal interference resulting from each other's work. Sprint planning. It's basically a collaborative meeting at the beginning of each sprint between product owners, Scrum Master, and of course the team. Sprint planning is broken down into Sprint Planning 1 and Sprint Planning 2. And the part 1 is attended by the product owner, in which the focus is in what are the items that would be done in the upcoming sprint. And generally, depending on the velocity of the team, a certain number of product backlog stories are pulled in and discussed to understand what was in the mind of the product owner when he wrote down those. Now, sprint planning 2 is actually without the product owner's presence, and most of the discussion is around how will the team approach the task at hand, and in ensuring that it can be done. Usually it involves breaking down the user stories into task level, identifying who will probably be doing what, and so forth, including looking at things like whether it's doable, can we commit on it, do we have enough capacity, etc. And then once it's finalized, they commit to it and work on completing it. During the sprint planning part 2, even though the product owner is not present during the meeting, he needs to be around so that if the team has certain questions, certain doubts, they can reach out and clarify it, or have a negotiation about probably replacing certain parts if there are too many uncertainties on it, and so forth. So generally the inputs are the product backlog items, the velocity, probably it could also include certain learnings from the retrospective of the last sprint, and constraints if any. And the outputs are the product backlog items, the sprint backlog item rather, and the commitment on doing it. Sprint review. Sprint review is one of the second to last activity at the end of the sprint. By this time, the team has completed all the deliverables, the incremental shippable output, and they sit down together along with the key stakeholders, the product owner, and conduct what you call the demo. So generally the participants could include from external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, Scrum team of course, and other participants including the product owner. The inputs to this activity are the sprint goals, the sprint backlog, and the potentially shippable increment demo. It's a activity to inspect, to find out what has been done, how effective it is, does it meet the criterias, and the output usually is also grooming the product backlog to fine tune it for the next release, and updating the release plan. In this section, we will deep dive into the different meetings and events during a Scrum. So mainly those are, so generally the inputs are the product backlog items, the velocity, probably it could also include certain learnings from the retrospective of the last sprint, and constraints if any. And the outputs are the product backlog items, the sprint backlog item rather, and the commitment on doing it. The last item in this section is about interesting tool. It's basically something that can help to continue the dialogue. So as you can see, there's a large sheet that can be printed out, and the team can be sitting around this and have a round of discussion about how it went, what were the difficulties, what happened, how did it happen, learning from that, identifying what actions to be taken, and itemizing them into 1, 2, 3, which becomes the input for the future sprint. Generally, this is conducted with writing it down in the center along the line, and in post-its, which becomes inputs for the next sprint. These are some of the materials and references used. Thank you very much.